Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. It's going to be another tropical update on the growing hurricane threat and very huge changes in the ensembles and the main GFS model. And we will also go over some other ensembles and models. So without further ado, let's get started. So if we go into the future, we do see that the system actually dies over the Central America very quickly, forms in the Eastern Pacific, and then it relocates, and we have a weak tropical depression, disorganized low pressure system hitting around Florida, and that would bring some weak tropical storm force winds, some higher wind gusts, and maybe even some heavy rain of up to 5 inches in isolated spots, and some significant wave heights. Now, the reason I am going over the GFS very quickly, as you can see, systems gone much weaker in the main model, but that has not been the case for the ensembles, and of course the ensembles are very important because that is basically what runs the GFS model, and the GFS model can get messed up due to the ensembles, and I will show you those in a second. But if we go to the CMC, which is the Canadian model, we do see that they show a low becoming possibly a weak tropical storm off the coast of the Carolinas, and the ECMWF, if we have to go to 0Z. Oops, nope. Anyways, they don't really show anything. So that's really it for the main models. But the ensembles are telling a different story. So if we go in, we do see that around the time the system is supposed to form, we see tons of ensembles showing this system forming, and you see a lot of those blue circles. That's 980 to 999 HPA. Those are tropical storms to even Category 1 hurricanes. That's usually what the pressure is. So we're going to call these ones tropical storms to weak hurricanes. And then we have these reds, which are basically stronger hurricanes to even some Category 3 major hurricanes. That's what we usually have in the 960 to 979 millibars, which are those red circles. So we still do see many ensembles showing a major hurricane. We see one potentially going into the Florida Keys before weakening back to around a tropical storm, but that is still a threat. We see a major hurricane, even in the purples, going to Louisiana. We see one edging through Florida and then going towards the North Carolina, and then we see the ones where the ensembles that show the system forming later, we have going into the Florida Panhandle, the Florida Big Bend, and through the Bahamas and Cuba. And then, of course, you have all these blue circles, which are all over the place, basically showing that lots of ensembles are showing a organized, at least tropical storm to even hurricane, like low-end hurricane, which is still a hurricane. That's why I'm saying the hurricane threat is growing. But they're just unsure on where it's going to go. And due to the large amount of ensembles going to a major hurricane strengths, like those purples and darker reds, we can infer here that... by the way, we do see some ensembles going to like below 950, like the one hitting Louisiana. So due to the large amount of these red circles that go towards major hurricane, a lot of the blue circles around them are likely showing a hurricane too, due to the Gulf Loop kind of really strengthening up these systems, and due to the fact that GFS's wind and millibars aren't always on point. But yeah, we definitely do see here that at least a tropical storm threat is at play, but a lot of these ensembles, like I said, are showing hurricane to major hurricane strengths that would bring hurricane force winds and stuff to wherever they hit, or at least that. So now what we do have to watch out here for is the model spread is going to mess up the model mean, basically what goes into GFS. Due to the large spread of these models going all over the place, it's not going to show a tropical system, or at least an organized one, in the mean, due to the fact that since we have ones going to Texas, ones going out to sea from the Bahamas, it's uncertain. And basically I'm just showing you where the systems are going. So we do see here The latter ones go up the East Coast, but we see the vast majority of one more going into Florida. Actually, usually they were going west, but now we see a lot more ensembles going into the Florida Peninsula and Florida Panhandle, and that's what I was showing you when I keep moving these ensembles. So basically, what we could be seeing is a more eastern system in the Eastern Gulf, but definitely the Central and Western Gulf are still at a big threat, and I'll show you that in the older ensembles in a second. So basically, what I'm saying here is these reds are the red and the models, the ensembles showing those red circles, and the purples and the pinks are the ones that show the strongest systems, though even the blues we have to watch out because that is still tropical storm hurricane force winds, which can also bring heavy rainfall. So if we go into the 850 HPA wind, we shouldn't see anything too organized as you see, but then we have to go into the wind control because that is where you can really see kind of a outline due to the large model spread. It still does show a disorganized tropical storm up the East Coast, but due to the large model spread, it's not really showing any tropical system, though that tropical system is still present. If we go to the MSLP, we're not going to see anything, of course, due to the large model spread. If we go to the minimum MSLP, look at all of these tropical systems. We have tons of them. And of course, some MDR systems that we're not going to get into this video. But see, we have one going into Louisiana, multiple tropical storms down to sorry, that was an accident. Anyway, many tropical storms going into Florida, a hurricane going into Florida. So yeah, basically what you're seeing here is all of these tropical systems going into the Gulf Coast and up the East Coast. So basically that's going to give us a higher hurricane threat, and of course obviously just a general higher tropical storm threat in general. So tropical storm force winds, hurricane force winds are a growing threat because of that, due to a more organized tropical storm, which of course can lead to other higher threats such as higher waves, heavier rain, and flooding. So basically we're inducing a higher threat in that. And we do see the ensembles here. If we go to each specific ensemble, we do see Ensemble 13, Ensemble 14, and Ensemble 15 are kind of on par with each other, except one goes into Louisiana, one goes into Florida, and one just goes out to sea, but they're all organized systems. Then we see Ensemble 27 showing us something into the Florida, South Florida and the Bahamas, Ensemble 28 into the Florida Peninsula, and Ensemble 29, a huge system into the Florida Panhandle, Ensemble 30, a huge system into the Florida Big Bend. So multiple ensembles showing stuff like this. So clearly, at least in the ensembles, the threat is growing for at least a tropical storm, but also that was a growing tropical storm threat means a growing hurricane threat, at least in this case. So, and we're just going to go to all the locations. See the high tropical storm model spread. You can't see all of them as many of them are on a similar track, but yeah, we definitely do see two into western Louisiana, one into the Florida Panhandle, one into the Florida Big Bend, a couple into near and into the southern Florida and Florida Peninsula area into the Carolinas. So these ensembles are definitely showing some nasty things. And by that I mean strong systems. If we go into 18Z, we see the threat has clearly grown from 18Z, as 18Z was also all over the place. I meant 0Z, sorry. And 18Z is kind of similar to now, except it was a little more organized on Florida, and they were a little stronger. So basically, it's growing threat for the Florida Peninsula, obviously, and the Carolinas. I don't think it's going to go so west to where... I don't think it's going to move so east to where it just goes out to sea. Obviously, bridges are going to prevent that, but basically a growing threat for much of the East Coast, much of the Southeast Coast. I'm not saying it's going to go up to, Canada or the Mid-Atlantic or anything like that. No, it's very unlikely, but still the whole Gulf is at a threat. Just saying the Eastern Gulf, though, is at a growing threat, and obviously 18Z shows that very well, with multiple ensembles showing a hurricane for the Florida Peninsula. And basically I'm representing the hurricane by the 960 to 979. You see a lot of red there So a lot of 960 to 979 millibar systems, a stronger system, are going into the Florida Peninsula. So we're going to have to watch out for that. And then, of course, back to 60. It's still all over the place, but definitely a good amount in the eastern Gulf. If we go to 18, these average, which obviously average isn't always accurate. They see, oh, that is now we do see that the average is more west due to more tropical storm ensembles going more west. But either way, whether this goes out to sea or doesn't go out to sea, there's likely going to be a threat for at least the eastern Gulf, or up the east coast, or into the western Gulf, of at least tropical storm force winds based on the ensembles. Of course, this can change. It could get weaker. It could diminish in the models. We will have to see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the SpaghettiOs. We're going to go to EPS cyclones. Go to 0Z because 6Z isn't done loading. We do see that they aren't on par, but they're more like with it. Because, of course, originally there was no ensemble showing it. Now we at least have a couple ensembles showing at least a brief tropical system by Florida, or like in this case, similar to Ian track where a hurricane hits the Florida Peninsula, then goes into the Carolinas. So at least we have more support there, meaning more certainty, which what this system will do. So an overview is the overall tropical cyclone threat is growing, especially for a hurricane that's getting more shown in the models, 960, 979 millibar system, which there is a millibar scale, and on 960 to 979 millibars commonly shows a hurricane on the millibar scale. But of course, we also have to go off winds, but obviously we can't do that in the ensembles. But basically what we're seeing is tropical storm hurricane threat is growing. And anywhere from the Florida Peninsula to, I'd say, the Texas, Louisiana border, up to maybe the outer banks of North Carolina, should keep an eye for, as well as the Bahamas and Western Cuba and the Yucatan, and maybe even Central Cuba. All of those areas have to watch out for in this system, and if it forms earlier, maybe even Jamaica could be at a threat. So either way, the hurricane threat is growing, and of course that would bring some nasty impacts. Even if it's just a tropical storm, it could be bad though. But either way, we're starting to see more ensembles showing a major hurricane, even with the main models not on. With it, the ensembles are very important too. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. And if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. Anyway, bye.